Wait, that wasn't recording.
Oh.
My whole thing is just sort of, like I've been thinking about, kind of the state of where film is right now in the 21st century. Certain film traditions are dying out, and it's unfortunate.
You mean like using film?
Well, that's been dying out since the beginning of the 2000s and really the late 90s. Which that actually does not bother me as much as it does somebody else, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. You know, we've got things like video on demand and Netflix and all sort of, basically we're getting to the point where we have one gigantic streaming.
But which worries me though, like, I mean, this goes on to another topic of like ownership, like say like Steam or something for video games, like you're like, oh, I bought Counter-Strike in 2003 or something, and then I still have it, even though I bought it on a different computer, I've loaded it on a different computer, I still have it. I can, delete it and download it as much as I want, and it feels like I always have it, no matter if I lose the disc or whatnot. If I get a new computer, I still have my games. But on the same token, what happens if Steam goes out of business?
Yeah, and you can make the same argument, I mean, especially in the film world now, and you've kind of got this whole thing right now with Netflix where, they have their streaming online entity.
Yeah, but that's like renting, though. But things that I paid I paid $24 on Vudu for a copy of House instead of getting it on DVD. What happens if Vudu goes out of business?
Well, then that's what I'm getting. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is that people are really taken by this whole idea that you can have everything available to you whenever you want it. That's why the streaming on Netflix is so much more popular than getting the physical discs in the mail now.
Yeah.
And why people prefer watching a TV show on Hulu as opposed to when it airs the first time, or going back to Netflix watching their original series that they put up, in one gigantic block on a certain date, and you can watch the whole show in one sitting if you wanted to.
Yeah. But still, like, what I watch on Hulu, what I watch on Netflix, I still understand that I'm not owning it. I'm basically renting it. If you buy a DVD from Walmart or Best Buy, you're not buying the movie, you're buying the physical disc. I mean, because you don't actually own the movie, of course.
Right.
But whenever you don't buy the disc and you just buy it digitally, like, who's to say they can't just take that away?
We've only been living in a society with the internet for 20 some odd years, maybe. Humans have always wanted to have that feeling that they're in complete control of whatever they have in their lives. I mean, that's just a given. But the internet has sort of come along now and offered that to people. And, we're able to download music at anywhere for free if we wanted to, even though it's illegal. The illegal way of doing it is still more popular because free. That passion is never going to go away, and if anything, these streaming services have kind of ignited something in a lot of people, like it has kind of rekindled people's love of film. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
We've moved away from the realm of physical media, and we're moving away from it at least. DVDs and Blu-rays are going to be completely obsolete in 10 years, maybe less.
Well, I think CDs are more obsolete than vinyl, actually. My point being is that what's on a CD you can get on a computer. Like, basically, the CD is basically a small hard drive that holds files.
Yeah.
And when a record doesn't hold files, it's the most physical. Yeah. Like, you can touch the music.
Yeah, and people have talked about this a lot, maybe that the whole resurgence of vinyl is just a fad, which it very well could be, but for the time being, it's keeping the record industry afloat.
But the reason I say that is because why would I buy a CD when I can just download the stuff? Because what am I going to do with a CD? If I buy a CD, I'm going to put it in my computer, rip it onto my computer.
Yeah.
But a record, I'm going to listen to it. It's like if you get a record with an MP3 download code, you got it on your computer, and even if you don't got a record player, you got this really nice thing that's going to last forever.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about DVDs and Blu-rays, and to a lesser extent VHSs, even though those are completely obsolete at this point.
Like a CD is like a really nice photocopy of a Van Gogh painting, but the record is the Van Gogh painting.
Yeah, the loss of physical media, we're gonna start losing a lot of what we loved about certain things in the first place. Like, I like the idea of going over to my shelf and pulling out a Blu-ray of, I don't know,
Blickety blah blah.
Blickety blah blah. And I like being able to go over and open the Blu-ray player and put it in and go through the the process of having to skip through all the previews and all that other fun stuff, and get mad at the FBI warnings for keeping me from my movie. When we start losing completely the ability to have that physical thing, it's going to lead us into a dangerous realm. For the film industry, at least, because it's kind of killing the communal experience of going to a big dark room while we all sit around and enjoy something together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously sentimental, and you've never truly seen a movie until you've seen it projected on the big screen. Obviously, it was intended to be seen.
But yeah, you would go. That's why there was so many like drive-in movie theaters, because like to see a movie, you had to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, I can just go and get a VHS.
Yeah, and when the VHS revolution happened, you had a lot of people saying that you're never going to truly see the movie because you're going to be watching it on a little square TV screen.
And there wasn't like widescreen
exactly.
TV.
And that's another thing, is that has been improved upon vastly because of DVD and Blu-ray, that you can finally see a movie in the proper aspect ratio. I don't ever want to see a day where we're not going to the movie theater to watch a movie. I don't ever want, and I'm scared that that's going to happen because, theater attendance has been down for a little while. One argument can be said that, I would miss kind of that feeling of going to see a movie, even if it's not a particularly good movie, in the theater, because bad movies in the theater can be a lot of fun to watch. You can make the argument that, now you have more access to be able to watch the bad movies on your streaming whatever on Netflix. You can host like a party at your house and not have watch a really horrible movie. Like you watch something like, I don't know, Manos, the Hands of Fate, or just a classic bad movie, and have a viewing party with a bunch of your friends and sit there and make fun of it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
But we did it over Xbox Live, actually.
Yeah, we did. And it was fun. But, going to the movie theater and sitting in a dark room with complete strangers where you don't know their sense of humor at all, so it's basically just, a large improv session with a bunch of people that you don't know yelling at a screen. There's something about the communal experience of watching film that is always going to make it worth going to the movie theater, and we're slowly losing that.
Well, there's also something about going to a movie theater at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when you're the only ones in there.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, I've done that tons of times where it was just me catching a matinee, and I was literally the only person in the theater.
We need to go to the Rialto sometime.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Just throw that out there.
I don't live that far from it now, so it's like we're never going to lose the passion for film that we have.
Yeah.
We're never going to lose that aspect because those are the things that got us through, high school, and those are the things that we make connections with when we were younger because it appealed to us.
Growing old is like really depressing.
It is depressing, and that has been a major theme for a lot of movies over the years.
Yeah.
People talk, I studied film in college, and I don't regret doing it because it was something that I love. I still love.
Yeah.
And it annoys me when people, kind of like, well, what are you going to do with that? Nothing, aren't you? Maybe not anything that's relevant to you, but you go over and,
be a lawyer.
Be a lawyer or a doctor. I'm not going to stop you from it. I mean, I'm not that petty.
But you are the one who said, what you gonna do with the philosophy degree? Nothing.
That's good. But you see, it's a universal thing to beat up on philosophy majors, even though I love philosophy.
I love being a distraction.
I can tell. All right, the Cannes Film Festival just ended this past week. Thank you. Shit. All right, well, that's definitely going in. The Cannes Film Festival just wrapped up this week, and the Palme d'Or, the Best Picture, went to a movie called Blue is the Warmest Color, which is a horrible title. I'm sorry, that's like the most pretentious art film title ever. Like that's the kind of title that you would hear in a skit making fun of art films. But it sounds like a really interesting movie. It's about a young lesbian in France who falls in love with another girl, and it's kind of it's a 3-hour epic of their relationship and how blue is a warm color somehow.
The title is supposed to be ironic. Yeah, I hate people that don't get irony.
I got irony. It's so ironic, you probably haven't even heard of it. This movie, which was voted best film by the Cannes jury, who was headed by Steven Spielberg and had 4 other directors on the jury, which is rare. And it's probably going to get, a nice distribution deal or something out of it.
And what was this?
The movie that I was just talking about, Blue is the Warmest Color.
But what about Steven Spielberg?
He was part of the Cannes jury that voted it best picture.
Oh, okay.
That's why you need to pay attention. But, what I worry about with this film, which I actually am interested in seeing, is the movie going to get a nice distribution deal where it gets sent to theaters? I mean, obviously it's not going to show up in multiplexes, but is it going to get a nice independent theater run, like show up at the Rialto or the Colony or something like that?
What happened to that one theater that we saw Swimming Pool at?
It closed.
It sucks. That's a nice theater.
Yeah. It was just recent too, but I'll get to that. Is this movie going to be, a hit on video on demand, or is it going to be something that, people still go to the theater to go see? Colleen's calling me.
But yeah,
Hey, is this going to be a movie where, it shows up where I watch it on my TV and not see it necessarily as the director intended me to, or am I actually going to get to go see it in a theater where I'd prefer seeing it? And, sit around and be the pretentious, film buff with my glass of wine and everybody else around me with their glasses of wine being all like, oh, glasses of wine in movies. While a lot of people have lauded and praised this new method of being able to see movies, and it's, giving directors a chance to get their films out there. If I were a director and I were to make a movie and take it to a film festival and have it get all sorts of accolades and win all sorts of awards and all this other stuff, and people just love the movie, and then somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, we love your movie. That was so good. I want to sign a contract right now. But the only way the only contract we're gonna have you sign is a video on demand directly deal, and then a direct to DVD deal." I would be pissed.
Direct to DVD is like,
well, there's a stigma attached to it. There always has been, even when it was direct to VHS. It was.
It was the all the sequels to the Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's an excellent point, because those movies, it's more trendy nowadays to bash on Disney because they kind of bring it on themselves. But their movies are an integral part of our childhood, and a lot of other people's childhoods, and they did granted it was cash grabs all the way around. But they had all those direct-to-video sequels, and most of the time they sucked.
Yeah.
Like, bad. You can't just equate Disney's success with all directors wanting their product to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say that you can't just say that David Lynch wants to have all of his movies shown on DVD from now on because it's an easier way to get his vision out there. Because I know he wouldn't want it to be that way. Yeah. And he's somebody that's embraced filming on digital as opposed to film.
Mm-hmm.
But he also still would rather see his movies. He would still rather have his movies be seen the way they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a famous video of him talking, you know, railing against people who watch movies on their cell phone. You know, you don't want to watch a movie on this. I mean, yeah, it's a big screen with okay sound, but it's not ideal. Yeah. And people seem to love that, and I personally can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't understand. I watched that episode of freaking Adventure Time on my phone. I couldn't even stand that. Like, phones got smaller and smaller and smaller, and now they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
They are, you know, wider and HD and whatever.
Like, I mean, I seen this dude with like the newest Samsung Galaxy, and he had this like big rectangle. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you have an HD television and talking on it.
Basically, there's so much happening now. You know, we're truly starting to grasp the idea of the future of something that, you know, that Stanley Kubrick only kind of hinted at in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Is that you know there's that scene on the space station where the two guys are sitting around watching something on a tablet, which looks like an iPad.
Yeah.
And so many people have pointed this out on the internet already, but it's, you know, Kubrick was so ahead of his time that he, you know, knew that we would be looking at things on a small screen, a small portable screen where you can literally watch anything you wanted to, as long as you have, you know, the connection.
Mm-hmm.
All these movies and music and TV shows and all this other stuff can be readily available to you if you have the right amount of money.
Yeah.
I still would much rather pay, what is it, like $9 now, which is absurd, but still would much rather pay $9 to go to the movie theater and see a movie on the big screen as opposed to have to spend, you know, $30 a month to have access to all these other movies that aren't even going to be available.
$30 a month? It's a lot more than that.
Well, you know what I mean, though. It's
like, this is $50 a month, unlimited data or whatnot, mm-hmm. But that's like a cheap plan.
Still rather have the certainty of going to the movies in the movie theater and know what's playing as opposed to looking on a video on demand site or on a video on demand channel and seeing if maybe they have one movie I was vaguely interested in, you know, 3 months ago. Part of the mission statement of what we're doing here is I want people to realize that there are better ways to view the things that we love. You know, I prefer watching a TV show as it airs, not going on Netflix and watching their original content all in one block. I think people need to realize that the ways of hedonism and all this other, I want it, you know, the Veruca Salt complex of I want it now, mm-hmm. shouldn't apply to movies or music or TV or anything like that, because part of the adventure or part of the fun of seeing a movie or something like that is waiting for it to come out in the theaters, or waiting for that album to drop, or waiting for, you know, the next episode of How I Met Your Mother or whatever it is you want to watch, or Game of Thrones, whatever the flavor of the month is at that point.
Yeah, that annoys me. You see those commercials, you're like, you can take Game of Thrones anywhere, and it shows like a person watching Game of Thrones sitting on a bunch of rocks. I'm like, why would you climb like a mountain just to watch Game of Thrones?
I have something to prove, Mom and Dad. But yeah, and that is very true. Is why would you want to do that? Why would you want to, you know, be in the middle of a board meeting with your cell phone watching the latest episode of Dexter? Why would you want to?
Why would you? Because that's one thing. It's like, I like Dexter. I like video games. Yeah. I like all that stuff. But if I'm going to the beach, I don't want to fucking watch that shit.
I agree. No, this is true. You know, if you're on top of a fucking mountain, the last thing you want to do is watch TV. You know, I don't like to sound like such an old man or anything, but
no, it's not being an old man. It's being like
a human being.
It's just stupid.
Yeah, you don't want to. I don't want to go to the beach, and you know, when you go to the beach, you want to sit back and watch the
because waves. Really, people don't even do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, advertising all this stuff like people want to do that, but nobody wants to go to the beach and sit there with their tablet.
Well, and it's that philosophy of,
maybe a Kindle to read. I don't know.
Yeah, well, people walk around with their Kindles, and that's just, a new fact of life, which, that's fine. I still prefer a physical book, but, a Kindle's fine.
Because the difference in that is, you can bring your Kindle on the beach and read your books, instead of bringing your whole library of books, you just have all of them right there, and you can read whatever you want to. You don't have, instead of just bringing a book and then all of a sudden you're in the mood for another book. This thing where they're advertising watching your show is not like, oh, you don't have to bring your entire TV set and everything and run this rock course to the beach. Like, people already do that.
Yeah, exactly. When you go to the beach, you want to sit back and watch the waves come in, or go for a swim in the ocean, or build a fire and have a douchey guy with a guitar sitting around singing terrible songs, because that's part of the beach.
Yeah.
Or go into the mountains, you go camping and look at all the sights around you and build a fire and have a douchey guy with a guitar singing terrible songs.
And if you want to watch a TV, you can go back to the freaking cabin and watch TV.
Yeah, exactly. We've gotten to a point where we've all become Veruca Salt. We want it now, and we don't want to wait.
Yeah.
We want the golden goose with the golden egg coming down the chute right this second. The internet has kind of conditioned us to this idea. You remember back in the days of dial-up, a fast download was something that took 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas now,
it was one song.
Yeah, exactly. And we get pissed off if something is buffering and it takes like 3 seconds to buffer, or we click on the YouTube video.
I get pissed off when I'm right in the middle of it, all of a sudden the video starts buffering. I'm like, come on, I gotta stop right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I have to wait for the video to buffer, and then I can finally go.
Mm-hmm. And you get pissed off when you click on the YouTube video and it doesn't start up immediately.
I was talking about masturbating.
I got that.
You can download the entire discography of somebody in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Or less than that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at my house.
Yeah. And and that probably pisses you off because you're like, God damn it! If I had a good connection, this will only take me 10 minutes.
I should have 30 years worth of music in like 3 minutes flat.
Like now.
I want to now. The whole like getting depressed or getting old.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything's like seems like it's changing. Every time I see like Adam Sandler being like a middle-aged guy, I'm like, it's not supposed to be a middle-aged guy. He's supposed to be like a dude in his 20s, like he was in Happy Gilmore.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aiden's, Chevy Chase, and Steve Martin, and all those guys, and Rick Moranis. Those guys are Seth Rogen and
Steve Carell and some people like that.
Yeah, Seth Rogen's still pretty new to me.
You
know?
He's still that guy that was really funny on Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah. Are you interested in seeing This Is the End?
Yeah, I am. It looks funny.
Yeah.
Side note, but our kids are going to live in a world where Roger Ebert doesn't exist, or where eventually, because eventually Martin Scorsese is going to die, and they're going to grow up in a world not knowing what contributions he made to the world of film, or.
But I mean, you're thinking really negative. I mean, of course they will. Orson Welles, just because he's dead doesn't mean we don't know anything about Orson Welles.
No, and that's a fair point. All I'm saying is that they're not going to know a world where that was new.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't know a world where Taxi Driver's new, but.
Well, no, but we know a world where Goodfellas was new, and we know a world where Casino was new, or something like that.
That the things that were present for us are now retro.
Well, it's all prologue now. Is that this is like the primer for our kids to want to get into something, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
They're not going to truly understand why people like us have a love-hate relationship to the movie Titanic.
Like, it almost sucks to be an attractive actor, because you get like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck, all those guys. They almost got typecasted as being an attractive male, and they got jobs doing Legends of the Fall and other things that.
Yeah, or Romeo and Juliet. Even though I like that movie.
Yeah, I mean that's he was casted as being a good actor that happens to be an attractive young man.
Yeah, and and it's still sort of debatable about Ben Affleck, but even still, you put him, you get him, get him working with the right director, they can get a good.
But he started out in a good place, though.
Yeah, he did, and
Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I will still to this day defend Chasing Amy and Mallrats. Well, we'll save that debate for another time. But there are two titles on the Criterion Collection that are very controversial among film buffs for their inclusion on the collection: Armageddon and Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
And I guess to a lesser extent The Rock, but more so Armageddon. And the reason for Chasing Amy, at least, is that the people who think that Kevin Smith is a hack.
Yeah.
Just does not belong on the Criterion Collection at all. And, the debate over whether or not Kevin Smith is a good director is, ever changing. And, I don't necessarily have the same affinity for him as I did when I was in high school, but I still appreciate his movies, at least some of them.
Yeah.
And I still think that, I do think that Chasing Amy is perfectly good on the Criterion Collection, and I feel that way about Armageddon.
We are not hipsters. We're not going to be like,
Yeah, and I think it's
because I love my slasher movies. I don't care if
I love them too. I love genre pictures. The horror movies and the comedies and the epics and the blaxploitation films and things like that. Not nearly as much as someone like Quentin Tarantino, but I still enjoy them.
Like, I wonder when there's going to be a new genre.
Well, and it may be that we never get that. I mean, there may never be a new genre of film or literature or something like that. But it doesn't mean that we can't constantly strive for that. There's the old cliche in Hollywood, there's only 7 stories, and each movie is just trying to find a different way to tell that story. It's true, but at the same time, the creative process demands that we not only take that story and find a new way to tell it, but we take that story and hit it with fucking sledgehammer and see if we can make the pieces into this new Frankenstein that ends up becoming a classic.
Lomo comes from a brand of camera. It's a Russian camera.
Yeah.
And basically the style is do everything wrong. Like, take a film that isn't Process C41 film and use Process C40 film stuff with it and just, like, fuck with everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything right.
It's a pretty avant-garde form of photography.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing, is that the avant-garde, especially in film, was actively rebelling against narrative storytelling.
Yeah.
You could have a movie of nails falling from the ceiling, or in the case of Stan Brakhage, a bunch of like little glass plates that he scratched and put like moth wings and things on, and then filmed that for 30 seconds, and that's one of his masterpieces. I love the.
But there's a fine line between break the mold or I'm just trying to make some bullshit that looks all.
Oh, absolutely, and you can always tell.
You can separate the bullshit art film and the Lynchies.
Yeah, exactly. You can separate the Brown Bunny from Mulholland Drive. I mean, the movies don't compare, obviously, but they're not. Vincent Gallo just had his head up his ass and wanted to put it up on film.
I like Vincent Gallo, but he is a pretentious little...
Oh, he's a shit. He's a shit bag. I would consider Vincent Gallo a bullshit artist. But he has his moments. Buffalo 66. I love the movies of Guillermo Del Toro. Not necessarily all of them, but the ones that work are brilliant, like Pan's Labyrinth or Kronos.
And, like Blade 2 and
Blade
Hellboy.
Look, Blade 2, well, Hellboy is actually pretty good, but Blade 2, honestly, is probably the best of the Blades. It's still not that great of a movie, but, But the thing about Guillermo del Toro is he's working very much within the horror genre. Like, he is a genre director.
Yeah.
But he's also finding new ways to sort of subvert the genre into saying something new and original.
You can call Pan's Labyrinth a horror movie, but you can also... But most people don't see it that way because it's so...
It's a fairy tale. It's technically a fairy tale, but it's also a horror movie. It's also a family drama. It's also...
Well, it's a family genre rated R.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still family... No, not family drama as in family movie drama. family drama as in there is a family and there are dramatic things happening to said family. But it's also a war movie, or a light war movie.
A period piece.
Yeah, it's a period piece. It's rooted in historical fact, basic historical fact. But there was a fascist regime in Spain right around the time of World War II, and it continued on for a long time after that.
Yeah.
He's one of the few directors out there who speaks eloquently about film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love listening to his commentary tracks. I love watching the interviews with him because he really gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it more than, somebody like Zack Snyder, who I can't stand.
For one, making a movie based on a graphic novel is pretty easy because the graphic novel is already visual.
Yeah.
Especially, a lot of people think that 300 is made by the same people who did Sin City, which it's not. It's just that they Frank Miller wrote the books.
Both books, yeah. Are you going to the bathroom or something?
No, it's just this chair from the butt.
My criteria for going to see a movie is, what am I going to get out of it when the movie's over?
Am I just going to get a tummy ache and a bunch of gas, or?
Yeah, exactly. No, but am I going to? And it changes from movie to movie. Obviously, like if I'm going to go see, like the Avengers, am I going to have need to think, am I going to have a really good time watching that movie? Yes. Or if I'm going to see the new David Lynch movie, am I going to not really understand what's going on, but goddamn, does it look pretty? Probably.
What needs to happen in video games is, like, not every video game has to be a fun video game. Like, The Avengers is a fun movie, but not every movie has to be The Avengers. Like, there needs to be video games that you're not saying, oh man, the gameplay was excellent, it was a really fun experience, I had a lot of fun beating the crap out of this dude. It was like, I just want to, like, get something out of it. Something emotional, something, like, visual. Like, it don't have to be, like, fun all the time.
The thing is the fact that you, like, when you feel like you're a part of something and you're helping the story progress along, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Be considered artistic.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, that can almost be said about film. I mean, obviously, you're not going to interact with the film like you are a video game, but you're looking for something that is going to cause your brain to want to be involved with what's happening on screen as much as it possibly can. We want to be able to interact with what we're being shown in an artistic sense, whether that's, reading an engaging book or playing a video game where we are engrossed in the story, or watching a movie where we relate to the characters. I like the idea of, finding a way to engage with the art form. I like the idea of, and, maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because that would kind of allow that, you could say that that's what video on demand does for some people. It allows them to engage with the work on an easier level.
Mm-hmm.
But because the implications are so much more dire, I think, for the state of film, that, those services are more detrimental than people realize. Cinema isn't going anywhere. We're not, it's never going to die. It's going to, quote unquote, evolve. The question is that evolution something that we want?